Right, so because we're in level 4 lockdown here, I've decided I can't get a hold of one of these, what they call a guitar doctor. And I'm making up this little gizmo here in order to straighten out the lifting bridge and the warped top, which is collapsing in towards the sound hole and then bowing up behind the bridge down to the tail block. So I made up this little thing. You'll find these online. I just made mine out of wood because we can't get out of the house. So there's the wee gizmo. I've just actually angled mine so that the dowel comes more down on this angle because I've got a twin pickup inside of my guitar and they both plug in the tail block, so I want to make sure that mine angles down to the bottom of the tail block and doesn't end up pushing up against where the output jacks are. So there's the little dowel hole, and that's going to slide through there. End of the tail block is way over here, and then I just used because I couldn't get a hold of any Teflon, so you would just make a little, instead of a Teflon post, this, you see the square head down in there. Obviously you kind of pilot hole that will drill down into there. Then I'm going to put another little piece of dowel in there and drill it down in, and then I'll drill down in through the bridge later on into the doweling that's placed in the center of this. Then this part of it here, when you tighten up the doweling, I'll show you the mechanism later on that I've made for that at home. When you tighten that, it's going to push against push the doweling against the tail block, and that will then swivel this whole thing up like this, and this part here will push just under the front of the bridge and start lifting up the front of the bridge, and this will support the back of the bridge. All right. I've decided to put a little inner brace on this thing. This is just a bung from the bottom of a dinghy boat, and then I've put glued my doweling into there. My screws coming out the bottom, which is going to go into here, and got my dowel glued out, and that's where the screw goes through the bridge. And I've decided to put a little bracket on here because that is very fussy in there, because I don't have much space between my LR Baggs microphone up inside on my bridge, and so that little space there just exactly has to go around my my Anthem LR Baggs Anthem microphone that sits up under my bridge, and it was too tight just there, so I moved it back a few millimeters, and then it's a bit off the edge, so I'm going to actually put this bracket in because there's going to be a lot of pressure pulling down on this once I tighten my dowel up against the tail block. Right, so this is why a lot of us have daughters, so we can steal their things for doing this kind of stuff. This is the LR Baggs Anthem sound hole pickup installed, and I've stolen my daughter's cosmetic mirror, which is most useful for showing you this. So down in here is the mic part, and I'll zoom in for you. There we are. So that's the mic part that has to be, if I could focus any better. And so right there is the Teflon block, and right there is the microphone, and then right here is the part that goes underneath the bridge and attaches to this screw right here. So there is not much room when you put in one of these Anthem microphones to do this if you have a warped neck, to put in this little gizmo that they call the Guitar Doctor. And anyway, I see everything's going to work. It's just clearing either side of that microphone by about a millimeter or two. And yes, you can also miss all the wires and everything. So I'm going to then put the dowel in there and start tightening it all up and see if I can start lifting up this bridge. Alright, so here's the dowel that's going in. You want to make it over long you can like slide it down into the guitar, like in the direction of the tail block, and then once you go down in that way, you can slide it back up in towards where the neck is, and then angle that block slightly. Sorry, I can't really get this at the same time to show you, but the dowel's in there. You're going to slide that in. Just make, I'm not tightening everything up because you might need a bit of an angle like I do. I'm just pushing the dowel through. There we are. Now we have this extra part over here. It's hanging out, right? So then you're going to cut that off. In my case, I'm going to cut it flush. Depends on what system you're using, but the little system that I designed has a about 1 centimeter or so on the back side. So I've got to allow that much, and then my screw is going to push that dowel in. So I'm going to cut that dowel off flush and be back with it. Okay, so what I'm showing you now is this little gizmo. This is what's going to tighten the dowel in. So this is basically one of these. You get a crappy old multi-tool and cut out this part here. Well, actually right around here where it's reinforced. That's what this is. I cut it out, gave it a little file off, and basically spread it with some rust proofing stuff, paint. And then I drilled out the holes. It's already got some holes in it, which is kind of quite handy. So that's that. Get a crappy one, of course. This one's still usable, so I ain't using it. This one here had seen the end of its life. And then also, what you want to do, as you can see here, is you want to cut off, well, what I did, I wanted a solid piece because this screw that's in this mechanism here, it has to push into this where the doweling is. And I wanted a nice solid thing, so I just cut off a stainless steel screw head. And that's going to float down. I had to grind the edges off a little bit. It was a bit hexagonal, but it does slide down through the barrel where the doweling is going to go. Then this little fella, you can see the pre-drilled holes. They're a bit mucky, but so that's going to screw into there. And then this little bolt, with it's got a 5mm hexagonal Allen key head. Then so there's my screws that are going to go into these spots here. My lovely taped fingers. And then this, just imagine these guys are basically, they're all screwed in. And I'll see if I can show you this. I've reinforced it with a washer up there because there's going to be a lot of pressure on this little thing, because it's going to be pulling back like stink to try to push that dowel in, and the dowel will then go and push on the tail block, and that's going to rotate this entire little creature here up underneath the bridge. And then as this comes through, I'm screwing that, here's the head comes through, and it's going to push onto the little cut off stainless steel head, which is in here, and that's going to drive that dowel out towards the end block, the tail block. So we'll leave that. So here's what I wanted to show you, fellas. There's the little mechanism in place, as you can see. You can turn that with an Allen key. This goes up under the bridge, the edge of the bridge, hole side, sound hole side. This goes up at the back of the bridge, and in between is the microphone, or the pins for your to hold your strings in. Getting absent-minded in my old age. Anyway, this goes down and hits your tail block here, and then when you turn this with an Allen key, then it's going to drive your dowel. It hits the cutoff. It tightens on the nut that's inside of here. It cuts the head off. Hits the cutoff hex head, stainless steel hex head, which drives down into the barrel. That is transferring your doweling that way, pushing against the block, causing the whole thing. So the bridge is pulling down on the back side here, which straightens out the warpage between the back of your bridge and the tail block. And this part pushes up the front of your bridge, which then lifts that warp that comes down into your sound hole. And now we're going to see how this fits, how much cursing I do trying to get it in there, and we'll show you if it's worked. You can buy these things, and God knows what they cost, but you know, we're in lockdown. I'm just using anything I got in the shed. It's a great time to discover things you've lost. Good places to look because you pretty much cover every open space you've got with all your crap for building and projects and all that. So you know, your wife's dresser, often a good place to look because that's the next surface you want to cover. Sometimes some good things roll down into her sock drawer, so have a little rummage around in there. So yeah, if you're not one of those people with the benefit of, you know, the white privilege and have a carport and a garage and a shed and all that, then you probably just got your own house that you live in with your family. So all your crap is distributed through your house. So whatever you can find during lockdown, these are the objects I've found. So yeah, make up your own, but that's the basic principle. Apologies for the close-up of the damaged finger, but you know, that's the way it is with fingers. That's why God gave you 10 of them. You've got a lot to lose, and even if you just got one left, there's a lot of people you'd probably like to poke. But anyway, this is a standard square head. Now you're going to find with that there, this screw right here, that it's much wider. So I've had to ground it off around. I've kept just the square so I can get a grip, and driven it down in there to accommodate what is going to go in at the end, which is a nice little piece of abalone, and that will sit. If I can get my bandage hands working. That's going to fit quite nicely in there, and no one will know that there's a screw sitting in there upside down. You are real pretty. So that's just a word on that. Now this particular guitar has an extremely bowed top. So up here it's convex, and then here it is concave. That's a beautiful old gilt guitar, probably 50 years old, and this is happening and collapsing and destroying the whole thing. The bindings come off. I'm going to do that at the end, rebind it. The action's still amazing given that this is going on. It just frets out really bad after the about the 15th fret. So now I'm going to see what happens when we tighten up the old Bridge Doctor mechanism that's, you can see, sitting down in there. So I'm going to be tightening the Allen key on the Bridge Doctor, and we're going to see what happens here with it. Now the crucial thing is, do not try to straighten your entire guitar out in one go. I can see the bridge already lifting up. You can do a lot of damage if you over tighten and just try to straighten everything in one shot, but I can see she's already straightened up like it hasn't been for many a year. I'm very happy with that. So I'll just let it sit like that for a few days, adjust itself, and already it's become a real guitar again and not crying out. Alright, hope this has been informative, and we'll see you next time.